Hi, it's Paddy Hirsch at Marketplace. Today I want to talk about a word that you've been hearing a lot in the news recently, exposure. Okay, you've been hearing about this with regard to banks and to governments. You know, this government is way too exposed to European debt, or that bank has got way too much Greek debt, or whatever it may be. And this word exposure it's really negative, used incredibly negatively in the financial world right now. And certainly it's a negative word whenever we think about it in the real world as well, the public world as well. Because you think of exposure and you may think, oh my God, I'm exposed, I'm not wearing any clothes, or it's an expose, I've got too much media attention, or if you're up in the mountains and you're exposed, you've got exposure, basically that means you've got hypothermia and you're about to die. So exposure has this really negative connotation. So when you hear about exposure, you think it's bad. But exposure is not necessarily bad. I mean, think about the sun, okay? When the sun is shining and you want to go out in the sun, you're going to get some exposure to the sun. I mean, it's okay if you're smart and you're wearing a hat and you're appropriately clothed. You wear a nice pair of shorts and a t-shirt. You wear the right gear, okay? And exposure, a little bit of exposure, is actually a good thing. So this a little, okay, is good. A lot of exposure, on the other hand, can be a bad thing. So if you're out there and you're in your swimmies and you're beside the pool and it's a beautiful day and you've got your sunnies on and you lay back there and you're all happy, if you get too much sun or you stay in the sun for too long, well, what happens? That's right, you get burned and then you get very unhappy. So a little exposure, a good thing, a lot of exposure, not a good thing. So what does this have to do with bonds and bank debt? Well, it's the same for banks or governments. All right, and essentially what exposure means in this case is ownership. They're obviously not getting bonds on them, but what they've got is bonds in their portfolio. So say, for example, we have a bank called Boss Bank. Right? Boss Bank has got a little bit of Greek debt. That's probably not a bad thing. I mean, a little bit of Greek debt. I mean, the interest rate on Greek debt is probably pretty good right now, so the return is very good. And there may even be a government guarantee at the end of the day there. So a little bit of Greek debt is probably not a bad thing at all. A lot of Greek debt, if they've got, say, 3/4 of their portfolio invested in Greece, that could be a really bad thing, because if Greece goes down or the debt doesn't get repaid or the euro goes away or whatever happens, then Boss Bank is probably going to get dragged down as well. So essentially what we're saying is that exposure is ownership. It's just like the sun. A little bit of exposure is a good thing. A lot of exposure, too much exposure, overexposure, well, that means that you could end up getting burned as an investor, and that could leave you and your shareholders, and if you're a big bank, maybe the entire financial system and the global economy, very badly needing a drink.